Welcome back to this course on the Custom Cabinet Planner. In this course we will continue looking at the various sections of the procedures page, starting with the Finish Procedure section. Keep in mind that you can supplement your written instructions with images, photos, and screenshots, but also video. One of the biggest mistakes owners and team leaders make are putting notes on drawings to see me. Don't do that. If there is something the team member needs from you, make a short video telling them whatever you would tell them if they came to see you, and put it here for them to see at the time and place they need to see it. Distractions are time vampires, and unfortunately many distractions are self-inflicted. When we add a see me note to any drawing, we are asking for a distraction, and those distractions never come at an opportune time. Let's begin. So we're in the Finish Procedures group now, and this is broken into two sections, stained and painted. We're only going to cover the stained because the painted is identical in structure, just some different steps in between. And we want to speak to the objective here. The objective is to get all doors, door fronts, applied ends, and shelves finished as early as possible. So in each of these groups you certainly can add an objective, and it makes sense to kind of tell the people that are doing it for the first time or haven't done it in a while what your objective in this section is. So that's what this little piece of the puzzle is about. And then in the room selections piece of this, we've seen this over and over and over again. This is telling us we're in the finish department. What are we going to finish? Well, this one obviously we should have gone into the painted because it's designer white, but we're just going to go ahead and stay in the stained section since we're here. And there's no glaze, and the sheen is 15 degrees. And the next piece of it is the review the drawings. Now, I've talked about this many times, this project data and that the drawings are here, but I just want to go ahead and pop into them once and show you what happens when we do this. So there's the drawings. This is the name of the drawing file. It's a PDF file. If we click on it, now you can look up here right now and you can see I have 3 tabs open. When we click on these drawings, a 4th tab will open right next to the tab we were on, and there's the drawings for this project. And so if they were working on this, they'd be able to pop those drawings up, and as they're working down this list, reference these drawings very quickly. Might even separate that tab and make 2 windows side by side so they can reference them side by side. But that's what happens when you click on that. And then this is the first time we've seen the finish log. And the finish log ultimately, long-term version 6 will probably be linked to a finished database, which will actually include colors and formulas. But right now we've got a link to the room. There's nothing in this particular one right now because we haven't done the finishing. But we would link to the room, then we'd put the date we're finishing. The finisher would add his own name into that assignee field. And then the material type, what are we finishing with? What's the batch number on the can? This is very critical information to keep if you have any problems to be able to reference back to. What's the formula on the can? Nice to refer back to if there's a problem. How many quarts were mixed? How many quarts were used, and how many quarts were disposed of. And of course you can add and subtract and whatever you want to do to make that more useful for you and your company. But the objective is to track what's happening in the finished room and to be able to look back and see what you did on a project, especially if there's a problem. If we jump down into the process section, what I wanted to point out here was not the individual items, but that we have distinguished between vertical finishing and flat finishing. If you only do one of those, you would delete the other out. But how you deal with parts when you're finishing vertical is different as far as racking and all the things you do to it than it is for flat finishing. So we've made those distinctions. You can see these are fairly extensive. This is like our stain coat, seal coat, then to sand, and then to top coat. And you would identify your coats necessary and list those out. And then you can see when we go into the flat finishing, there's just different things that are done. Same amount of coats, but we're doing them in a different way, loading them on a different type of rack or a cart, how we keep track of them and all of those things. Then we have the cabinets all by themselves. Then when we jump into the maintenance section of this portion, we again see the room status. And at this point, if we were finishing this project and we were just staining, we wouldn't be going into the painting group, so we would be done and we would come here and we would change the status from finishing to assembly. Now the cabinets are ready for assembly, and again, yours might be different than that. If it's a face frame cabinets, that might be the step. If it's full access environment, instead of assembly, you might be changing it to hardware. Up here, because I'm kind of presuming that after our assembly in the full access world, we're going to go to hardware, but it could be something else. And then we would change our assignee if we needed to, and then we see another one of these notes telling us to take some finish photos, send those to our client. Hopefully that would add some sales to our bottom line. Then we can jump down here into this hardware section. And the hardware section, if I close this up here, we can see that it's broken down into several subgroups. So we got drawer assembly. So before we hardware the cabinet, we want to go ahead and assemble the drawers, and that might be a system drawer being assembled, or it might be a dovetailed or wooden drawer box or melamine drawer box, some sort of assembled drawer box that needs to be applied to or attached to the drawer front. So that's what this is about. And then this is the cabinetry, full access versus face frame. And then we're going to load the cabinetry. Now again, if this isn't how it works in your company, you want to edit this and change this. But in our company, whoever was hardwaring the cabinet was also going to shrink wrap that cabinet and put it on the trailer or truck. So let's just jump into for a few little samples here of what we want to talk about. So in this drawer assembly piece, we have the drawings. We saw what happens when we click on those just a moment ago, so we won't click on those. But we have these links. We've talked about these links, but I've never clicked on one. So I'll go ahead and do that now. So let's say you are not familiar with the S&H drawer jig, or you want to go ahead and purchase an S&H drawer jig. Again, you can see now we have 4 tabs open. This is the drawings that we opened the last time we clicked on something. We'll go ahead and click on that S&H drawer jig, and it takes us to the website for the S&H drawer jig, and you can see there the cost of it, and they've got lots of pictures, but you could learn about it and how much it costs. But there are other places to buy it. I just linked to their website so you could see the most about it. And then we also see, while we're here in this drawer section, what drawer box is being used on this particular job. You can see what our options are, but you might have different options. We've got the Bloom Meta box, a dovetail birch drawer, a dovetail maple drawer, a grass Nova Pro, a grass Zargan. You can have whatever drawers you wanted in here, and once you choose it in that selections page, it'll show up in all these portals. That's the beauty of all of this. Then when we get down to the processes section of this, I'm just going to go into one of these, but we have those different drawers. What happens if it's a Zargan drawer versus a Nova Pro drawer versus an undermount drawer. So I'm just going to open one of them because the others are basically just different information about dealing with those different drawer types. This particular one has a Zargan specifications. This is useful if you're building system drawers of what length drawer goes in what depth cabinet and what drawer height span goes with which drawer guide on the drawer guide height. So this gives you that additional information. And then if we jump down to the maintenance area of this section, we would get to our room status, and we have a note a little different than we've had. So right now it says change room status to appropriate process. Typically this will stay at hardware until all the cabinets are loaded for delivery. And so we have the opportunity, if for some reason we are done, then we can go ahead and change it from hardware to whatever the next for us delivery or whatever that is. We can change it here, but this is saying that's probably not the case, so you're probably just going to leave this alone and go to the next step. And then we have full access cabinets, and so we will jump into that part. And again, we have a supplies list here and links to the various items that you would use for the job. True Precision Drill Guide being another one that we use a lot for hardware. And then you can see that unit here on Amazon. And also, while we're here in this part, we also need to be able to reference what hardware will be used. We're going to assemble the drawer, and then we're going to put the surface hardware on. So in this case, it's saying that it's pull by others. Somebody else is supplying the pull, but we need to drill it for both the door and the drawer. But sometimes that would actually have a model number, and then you would have to match up that model number with the hardware that you had in stock or had ordered for the job, and then drill appropriately for that. And then we have the maintenance section. It's again giving us that same note. It's probably going to stay on hardware because we still haven't loaded these cabinets, but if you needed to change it, you could. You have that link into it. And then we get into the, and I'm skipping the face frame parts of all of these just because we don't need to look, it's redundant, it's just a few different steps kind of thing. So now we're loading those full access cabinets. Again, we have a reference to look at the drawings because there's notes in the drawings that would make sure we get all the right things loaded. You notice we have a different list of supplies you'll need that need to be on the truck or trailer to be able to install successfully. So we need our installation checklist, which is coming out of Custom Cabinet Estimator. We need our invoice. This is kind of old. This typically wouldn't happen today, but back in the day we actually delivered an invoice to the job site, to the homeowner or the builder. But we need a hand truck. We've got several hand trucks here linked that would be very good for that process. Cabinetizer lift helps you install by yourself. A laser level, and there's one linked here that we think is a really high quality one. And then a laser level tripod, whether that's a Fastcaps laser jam or a tripod or whatever you prefer, but we've got a link to one that we think works pretty good. The laser jam doesn't always work in every application. A tripod can go anywhere, so we like that. And then the appropriate tool pack out kits, whatever those are, you'd have to have those identified to say these always go, whether they stay in the truck or whether they get loaded each time. And then when we get to the process portion of that, we've got a list of the accessories. We're loading the truck or trailer, and so in addition to the cabinets and the tools we need, what else goes on the truck or trailer? Well, these are all the accessories that will either be installed, part of this process, into the cabinetry in the plant, or loaded on the truck taken out to the job site and installed on site. And if you wanted to, you could actually have another field that said whether it happened in the hardware room or in the field. Our standing rule was if it can be installed in-house in the plant, we want to install it in the plant, not in the field where we control the temperature and all the other things. It's easier to do in the air conditioning than it is to do out in the field kind of thing. And then finally we can come in here and say, okay, now we've hardwared it, so we are ready for the delivery. And delivery is our next section, but we're going to save that for the next course. That covers everything I wanted to touch on this 7th course on the procedures page. Up next, we will continue working down our sequence of events list, looking at more sections of the procedures page, possibly finishing this series. Thanks for watching.